Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And they said that it must be facilitated.
Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that?
I'm going to tell you where you need to go next.
I was going to talk about disappearing Americans in foreign gulags, but you go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's happening too. Did you see the article, I believe it was in Rolling Stone, about Eric Prince?
Yes.
He's the mastermind, the guy from Blackwater, the mastermind behind the plan to send 100,000 U.S. prisoners to El Salvador, and that Eric Prince is going to create some sort of civilian contractor force that will be deputized to hunt illegal immigrants around the United States, dog the bounty hunter style, armed with weapons, and then forcibly deport them overseas, and that El Salvador will designate the new prisons as U.S. territories so that they can send Black, Latino criminals in U.S. prisons to El Salvador. This is madness. We are literally at the point where our government is now the enemy. They are viewing all of us as assets that they can do in a for-profit prison scheme. Prince is supposed to get $25 billion for this to create, of course, an all-white contractor hunting force that will forcibly remove Americans and send them overseas. I can't believe these words are coming out of my mouth.
Well, I can't believe these words are coming out of my... Attorney General Pam Bondi refused to say whether Trump's plan to deport American citizens to a Salvadorian prison is legal. So
of course she won't say.
Jesse Waters asked if Trump's musing about sending Americans there, where inmates sleep on bare metal racks and are kept in their cells 23 and a half hours a day, is legal. Bondi refused to answer. She said, Jesse, there are Americans, he's saying, who've committed the most heinous crimes in our country. Crime is going to decrease dramatically because he's given us a directive to make America safe again. Legal experts say the idea is obviously illegal. I mean,
They don't care.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
They don't care. And I'm sorry, but, last night at the town hall here in New York City, one lady asked, she goes, what do we do? What do you guys want us to do? And it's very obvious. Now is the time for all good men and women to come to the aid of their country, and you have got to hit the streets. Adam Kinzinger said that this morning. Yeah. We are at the point where every person, every weekend, every time you hear a protest, you had better get out there. And I'm saying that as a person that would have thought all of this was madness 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But now we're at the point where the only thing that's going to stop this is people power.
Yeah.
And here, put this here. Let me give you a little hint about some of the meetings that I've been having this week in Washington. Every one of you needs to surround the date of June 14th, which is the date Trump wants his grand Bastille Day parade, Trump Day parade in Washington, D.C. And I suspect what you're going to find is every protest group in this country is coming together on that date to do the largest march in the history of the United States.
Yeah. By the way, Brian Behar said people still act like a special bell will ring signaling the arrival of fascism. Trump just defied a 9-0 Supreme Court ruling. Fascism is here, right? I mean, for all of the people that call you or I alarmist, right? I mean, it's, there's so many great points. Dave says due process gave Trump enough time to become president and take due process away. And here we are, Malcolm. I mean, you're absolutely right. There is no hyperbolic enough,
right?
In my opinion.
Section 1, Article the Amendment 14, Section 1 says that no person shall be removed without due process. That's every person who is within the continental United States or its jurisdiction. These people no longer care about the Constitution. Stephen Miller in the Oval Office was overheard telling Trump that the Supreme Court ruling was in his favor.
Yeah.
Which is a flat-out lie.
Right.
I mean, we are standing into danger.
Right.
All of us, every one of us now can be designated a foreign terror or part of a terrorist group, which is laughable. But again, only one thing's going to stop this. You, every one of you, if you can't get out physically, help people to do it. If you have kids, help them to get out there. Sponsor a pizza party at the next rally. No matter how small, no matter where you are, get out there. We have to have a people-powered second American Revolution to save the first American Revolution, or we descend straight into dictatorship.
Saved a couple other threads for you. DeForest says, how did we get here? A, Mitch McConnell didn't convict in either impeachment. B, SCOTUS Roberts' creation of presidential immunity. C, 56% of whites turned their backs on Harris, a qualified candidate for president, for a candidate with 34 convicted felonies, 4 indictments, 2 impeachments. D, all of the above. Yep. Choices have consequences. But, to sum it all up, we haven't touched on Harvard yet today, but, Andrew Weissman said, if the Trump administration truly cared about the real problem of anti-Semitism and not just as a ruse to bludgeon universities to curb academic freedom, how about starting by condemning the violence against Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro and his family on Passover, which goes to your last book, They Want to Kill Americans. I mean,
that's right.
Here's a pro tip. The side with swastikas and actual Nazis on their side, that's the anti-Semitic side, right?
Well, I love this, that they're using anti-Semitism as a ruse to go after universities, but they're defunding universities for supporting blacks, women, people of color, Asian Pacific Islanders, straight gays.
Yeah.
Every other group now is no longer protected except Jews, which to most American Jews who I know, I was sitting with them last night. This is an insult.
Yeah.
They're going to defund by the hundreds of billions of dollars because they hate education. Education gives you critical thought. Critical thought makes you wonder, why in God's name would you ever stand up to these people?
Yep.
What is that old saw? Did you ever think that the reason is if you could think for yourself, you might wonder why this benefits the rich.
Yeah.
And it does.
Yeah.
And the hard part about this, the thing that is going to hurt us most when they get down to it is, we have people who are recruiting, like I said, that whole thing with Eric Prince, they're not going to use the military. They're going to hire white men.
Yeah.
And it's going to be that scene from The Handmaid's Tale where you women are going to be forced out with your little boxes downstairs, and the road down to your car is going to be lined with white militiamen with weapons. I wrote that in They Want to Kill Americans also. The deputization of the white man to become an enforcer for this administration.
I recommend you read all Malcolm's books, then read First They Came, the poem from Nazi Germany. I mean, we keep, I've mentioned it earlier because, obviously, as you know, my dad was a prosecutor at Nuremberg, but as we talked about, Auschwitz was in Poland, not Germany.
Right.
If you don't get that he was talking about concentration camps in other countries to send Americans to that are outside the reach of the law, then I don't know what to tell you. If that doesn't chill you right to the bone, I don't know what will.
Yeah, this is a concentration camp system we're talking about. I've spoken twice at Auschwitz. And the last conference I went to in 2019 was called Never Again, ... Really? I can't believe it. Everything was spoken there is happening in the United States.
I saw someone from Germany.
We are becoming a fascist dictatorship.
Yeah, I saw someone from Germany say, they're more, ringing the bell than people here are, saying, you have no idea how fast this can happen. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's, what are we, 70-something days in?
Yeah,
and,
not even 100.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Anyway, Malcolm, you are terrifying, and that is exactly the right temperature to be at. Thank you for your white-hot, terrifying
You're welcome.
rhetoric. All right. See you next week. Goodbye.
Thanks, Malcolm.
In America, personal religious beliefs should be just that, personal. But today, Christian nationalism is on the rise, threatening separation of church and state. Laws are being passed based on religious doctrine instead of reason, eroding our rights and freedoms in legislatures, public schools, even in courtrooms. One set of religious beliefs is being forced onto everyone else, but that's not what our founders intended. The Freedom from Religion Foundation is fighting back as the nation's leading group of free thinkers working to keep religion out of government. FFRF protects your right to think for yourself, whether you've always been secular left religion behind, or simply believe in true religious freedom for everyone. If we don't stand up now, we may lose our religious freedoms. Join FFRF in defending our secular constitution and keeping faith a personal choice, not a government mandate. Visit ffrf.us/freedom to learn more, become a member, or text my last name Miller to 511-511, because in a truly free country, no one's faith should dictate everyone's future. Text Miller to 511-511 today.